All right, I want to welcome you to the Time to Tell the Truth series. It's a weekly series that we've been doing. I don't know what number we're on, but we are pressing forward throughout the rest of this year to share some powerful information that we are doing the necessary research. My name, if those of you that don't know who I am, I'm Dr. Rosalind Sharp Belt. Everybody calls me Dr. Roz. I am the CEO of Dream to Life Productions, Ministry, Complex, so many things we're doing together, myself and my husband. I am a wife, and I'm also a musician and a few other things that God has blessed me to be able to do. But in this vein that we're talking about here, I am a certified wellness coach with a company by the name of Akana. Yes, I have received my completion for certification for Akanapreneur and lifestyle consultant. I'm a certified wellness coach, and today's topic is, are you digesting what you eat? Now, let's just think about that. We all know we eat, but have we thought about, are we digesting it? And if we're not digesting it, is it causing some problems? Or is it taking longer to digest than it should? All of those are questions that we hope to answer in this particular setting. So let's get started.
You probably already know that every bite you eat makes its way into your stomach where it's digested. But what does that actually mean? What is digestion and how does it work? Let's find out on today's episode of
Colossal Question.
The process of digestion doesn't start in your stomach. It actually starts in your mouth, even before you've taken your first bite. You see, saliva doesn't just make it easier for food to slide down your gullet, it also begins breaking down chemicals in the food, starting up the digestion process right there in your mouth. When you finally get a bite and sink your teeth into whatever it is you're eating, the saliva breaks down the food even more, making it easier to mash up and swallow. With the help of your tongue, all that chewed up food makes its way to the back of your throat. Once you swallow, the food leaves your mouth and enters the second section on its digestive journey, the esophagus. The esophagus is the long, stretchy tube behind your windpipe. Think of it a bit like a tunnel. The walls of your esophagus are lined with muscles that squeeze the mushed up food down into your stomach. Inside the stomach is where digestion really kicks into high gear. Lots of us picture our stomach as a big sack, half full of acidic liquid that dissolves away whatever we eat. But that's not quite right. Instead, think of your stomach a little bit like a natural blender full of acid. The walls of your stomach are lined with super strong muscles that ooze out acidic gastric juices that break down the food even more. They stretch and squeeze your stomach, churning up everything inside and breaking the food down into smaller and smaller bits. Once your stomach is done doing its digestive work, what's left of the food is ready to move on to the next stop in its journey, the small intestine. The name is a little bit misleading because your small intestine is anything but small. All stretched out in a line, it's actually over 20 feet long. That's about as long as a string of lights you'd put on a Christmas tree, all coiled together inside your belly. As the food mixture makes its way through 20 plus feet of twisting and turning intestine, digestion continues. As you might imagine, this is the longest part of the process. It can take up to 4 hours for food to make its way through your small intestine. During that time, the pancreas, liver, and gallbladder all produce special juices that help your body process the minerals, proteins, carbohydrates, and fats left in the food mix. Once the mixture is finally done making its way through the small intestine, what's left are just the parts of the mushed up food your body couldn't use. All that stuff goes right into the large intestine. The large intestine is wider than the small intestine, but nowhere near as long. Only about 5 feet if it was laid out in a line. While it moves through, water is absorbed out of the food mix, making the waste less of a mushy mess and more of a harder mass. And then, of course, the digestive journey finally reaches its triumphant conclusion in the bathroom. A gross end to an all-around icky journey through your guts.
How many of you understood your digestive system like never before now, right? Plain and simple. So let's think about this time duration, how much time it takes for this to pass through. Well, the Mayo Clinic says that it takes 6 to 8 hours for food to pass through your stomach and the small intestines. As you saw in that example, as you saw in that kids video, right? That food enters our large intestines for the further digestion, the absorption of water. Now, what if you're not drinking water? And then finally, the elimination of the undigested food. So they say it takes 36 hours for food to move throughout the entire colon. So that means none of us stop or eat just one time in a 36-hour period of time. So we're eating and we're eating and we're eating. And so therefore, they're saying that we hold 10 to 12 pounds of waste in our gut. I hope that today, by the time you hear the end of this, you understand why we've got to do something better for our gut.
Dr. Delatorre, how long does it take from start to finish to digest food?
When you eat something, and depending on what it is, your body, you as an individual, food will take anywhere from 2 to 5 days from reach your mouth to your anus, which is the bottom of your gastrointestinal tract.
Clutch the pearls.
There's a variety of factors that will determine when and how long it's going to take for it to get to that point. So it depends on the food, your just overall rate of digestion, and a lot of times your colon.
What makes one food digest faster than another?
That's an excellent question. Unprocessed foods are the best food for your body because they don't have the additives, the chemicals, the pesticides, all the stuff that basically makes processed food more difficult for your body to digest. Think about it this way. When you eat a really great, let's say, smoothie you made at home, chock full of vegetables and fruit that you know exactly what's going into it, it actually will promote you to have a bowel movement if that's something you have an issue with. There's just so many additives and chemicals that our bodies, from an ancestral standpoint, aren't really used to. So that kind of stuff can really slow down digestion.
Is there anything we can do to speed up our own digestion?
It's not really something that you can control necessarily. Again, if you eat more pure whole grains, just food that is natural, you're going to have better digestion.
Working out speeds up digestion. Fact or fiction? That's
kind of complicated. So there are a few different things that come to mind. One of them is like runner's diarrhea. That's a thing. Runner's diarrhea is absolutely a thing. And working out can also cause constipation if you're very dehydrated. Overall, the American Cancer Society recommends that you work out for about 30 minutes at a time, several times a week, and that will just promote overall health, not only gut health, but heart health, brain health, and will prevent cancer. So I would say that no matter what, you will never be wrong for doing an appropriate amount of moderate cardiovascular workout every week to promote your entire body's health. And of course, it will be good for your digestive health as well, as long as you maintain hydration.
As a gastroenterologist, what do you eat for optimal health?
Fiber is so important. I don't take fiber supplements, but I try to maintain enough fiber in my diet. And that comes in the form of lots of fruits and vegetables, organic fruits and vegetables, and hydration. You will be so surprised by how many people say, I'm dealing with severe constipation, and then you ask them how much water they drink in a day, and it's like a cup of water sometimes.
So we're understanding we got to take a special note to what we're eating, the length of time that it's taking to digest, and are you drinking water? Water. What's this thing? We always hear about water. Well, we're made up of water, guys. I mean, there's never a bad time to drink a glass of water. Matter of fact, I need a glass of water right now, probably, right? Because the human body is made up of water, 60% water. And so it makes sense. I hope my whole objective is for things to make sense. So it just makes sense that every ounce we drink is important for maintaining our body's processes. People tell me all the time, well, I don't like water. Well, this is not about you liking it. This is about what we need to even help us. She said our whole body, but it even helps our digestion. while you're sitting there being bloated and you're sitting there with stomach conditions and you're sitting there with issues and diseases that are directly related to your gut, one simple thing we can do is to drink water. So, especially when you're engaging in strenuous exercise, staying in the shade on a hot day, or simply trying to be at your best mentally. Do you know that drinking a glass of water helps you mentally stay sharp? It can give you that lift. Proper hydration includes drinking small amounts of water throughout the day for an average of at least 3 to 4 liters per day. What is it going to do for you? Regulate your body temperature, help you to stay mentally focused, clear up your skin, lubricate your joints, maintain your digestive system, help your blood flow, curb your appetite, and protecting your kidneys. I was hearing somebody say that the other day. When you get a craving for something, before you go get it, drink some water. Water truly is a remarkable resource, and we can't survive without it, and our families and our communities can't thrive without it.
Do liquids follow the same route as solid foods when we consume them, or do they have another, quicker route for digestion? Usually, people consume about 2 liters of water every day, by drinking water directly or via food and other beverages. Water is a very simple molecule, so our body doesn't have to break it into smaller, simple molecules. In fact, water molecules are so small that they have no problem diffusing through the cell membrane. Specifically, water is absorbed directly through the epithelial cells that cover the human intestinal tract. Fortunately, the small intestine is more than up to the task. It boasts a length of around 20 feet and has a huge inner surface area of roughly 250 square meters, the size of a tennis court. This large surface area helps to absorb water and other liquids quickly and efficiently. Of the almost 10 liters of water that enter our stomach every day, 80 to 90% is absorbed by the small intestine. The remaining 10% is passed on to the large intestine, which absorbs as much water as possible from the waste substances that will be excreted from the body as feces. The non-water fluids that we regularly consume are just chemicals suspended in water. Fruit juice, for example, consists largely of water and sugar, along with several other ingredients, such as preservatives, vitamins, and minerals in small quantities. Sugar is broken down by enzymes in the mouth and small intestine, and then absorbed into the body. Vitamins and minerals may or may not be broken down, but are all eventually absorbed in the small intestine. Tea and coffee are much the same. Sugar and fat, when milk is used, begin to break down in the mouth. The stomach will churn everything and begin to break down those proteins. Once the tea reaches the small intestine, the vitamins and minerals are absorbed. Tea and coffee also contain chemicals classified as antioxidants, some of which can be absorbed into the body. Amino acids are also found in tea and coffee, and are similarly absorbed by the small intestine. When alcohol, ethanol, is consumed, it enters the stomach, where it can be absorbed into the bloodstream. If there is already food in the stomach, the absorption slows down considerably. If one drinks alcohol on an empty stomach, the absorption of alcohol into the bloodstream takes only a few minutes. Basically, everything we consume is broken down into its components by digestion. So whether it's a sumptuous meal or a glass of wine, everything is treated more or less the same after we put it in our mouth.
So, do we need water? Here's what I want you to do. If you're watching this and you're saying, I don't drink enough water, I want you to put in the chat, I'm going to do better. I'm going to do better. I need that positive affirmation coming out of you. I'm going to do better. You type it in the chat. I'm going to do better. If I got to put a big old bottle sitting next to me and sip on it all day long. Because see, everything has a digestion time. And whatever time it takes, we really should be allowing it that amount of time before we eat something else. You know, they say in other countries that we eat too fast. Here in the United States, we're eating on the go. We eat standing up. When I came up as a kid, we had to sit down at the table to eat the meal. But as you can see in this chart, you can see how long it takes different things to digest. And your digestive tract really does pay attention to that because it recognizes what's coming in. So if you eat a steak or you eat some chicken, it's taking longer to digest it. So that means your body is putting forth more energy to digest that. And actually, what happens is if you eat some watermelon or some grapes or some strawberries, and then you back it up with some potatoes and some beef, your digestive tract says, hold up, wait a minute. I've got to slow up digesting the watermelon and the grapes, which take no time, and start working on what takes it longer to work, because now your digestive tract is working harder and conserving more, using more energy, which is why it gets tired, which is why we go to sleep when you eat a big meal. So actually, after it starts working on that beef, the fruit that you may have eaten first, which hasn't fully digested yet because the focus is on the beef or the chicken, now that fruit sits there and it's taken too long to digest it because of the other items, and then it starts to ferment. And we're talking about bad breath, we're talking about all these things that take place, and we don't even know why it's happening.
How long does the food stay in your stomach? Do you find yourself still hungry no matter how much or how often you eat? If so, you might be eating foods that are too high on the glycemic index. The glycema whata? I know, sounds complicated. It's basically how long it takes your body to digest different foods, and it's definitely something worth knowing if you're struggling with an insatiable appetite and excess weight.
So maybe you've heard of this before. If you haven't, I hope you haven't, and I hope this will be educating you about the glycemic index, because it's important. The glycemic index tells us how fast a food or drink affects our blood sugars. Food will digest slowly or it'll digest quickly. And it releases this glucose in the bloodstream gradually if it's on level 1, G1, the GI. That you've heard people say the GI. And maybe you didn't know what the GI meant, glycemic index. So if a food we digest quickly releases the glucose, it gives you that quick high. But guess what? What goes up comes down, right? There's also that crash. The GI values can be broken down into 3 different groups, 3 different ranges: low, medium, and high. Now, if you see this chart, low is for green, medium is for yellow, caution, and red is for stop and think. I think, I love this because now when we go to the grocery store and we buy foods, once we learn which foods are in which categories, you know what we need to do? If we're getting foods that are high in glycemic index, we need to do what? Stop and think. Somebody put that in the chat. Stop and think. I'm going to start stopping and thinking before I purchase this, before I eat this, because it has a high glycemic index. Now, let's cover these foods. Foods that are low on the index, what do? They release glucose slowly.
Foods that are low on the index release glucose, aka fuel for your body, in a slow and steady manner. And since these foods are metabolized slowly, they take a while to leave your digestive system, which means you feel full for longer and won't need to constantly overeat just to keep your body going.
Now, did you hear what he said? It stays in there longer. It sends the glucose slowly. Because it does that, you feel full longer. Anybody besides me have eaten a meal and in an hour, 30 minutes maybe, you feel like you're hungry again? That says something about what we just ate, right? So low glycemic foods are foods like the fruits: apple, grapefruit, bananas, broccoli, boiled carrots, mushrooms, lentils, chickpeas, eggplants. I mean, take a note of some of these foods, because guess what? We need to have more and more of these low glycemic foods. So basically what he said, let me say it again. And this is not just a full list. This is just a comprehensive list here. There are tons of them, and you can look up these charts all over the internet and see all of the foods that are listed as a low glycemic food. But what did he say that was key? When you eat these foods, they're slowly releasing it slowly. The glycemic index releases the glucose slowly, so therefore you feel full longer. That's so powerful. And therefore you're not ready to eat again and again, and you're eating, and then we're over consuming, because we live in a culture, we are a people who over consume many of the things that we eat. I love this because now we can make some intentional choices about what we're doing.
You might encounter foods that will be low on the index, but if they're processed, they most likely still contain tons of saturated fats, sugar, and empty calories. Take cheeseburgers, for instance. They rate pretty low on the glycemic scale, but this doesn't mean that big greasy burger is going to provide you with long-lasting energy or help you lose weight. You still need to be mindful of the nutritional value of foods, which the glycemic index doesn't tell you. For example, whole milk has a low glycemic value, but it's also high in fat, so it won't be suitable for weight loss. Plus, since low glycemic foods digest more slowly, if you eat only these types, you risk overworking your digestive system. Everything's about balance, you know?
So what we're learning is that even though it's low in glycemic index, we don't want to just focus totally on that because you saw the burger because now you saw the milk, the fat that goes along with it. So we still got to look at the full picture. But the idea is that we need more of these in our diet. Let's go to the medium glycemic foods. Okay, so all of these are rated by a certain number. Here's some that maybe you say, okay, well, now here we go. Here's where I like to fit in right here with some beets and pancakes. Oh my God, ice cream, medium glycemic foods. So remember what it was? Green was go, yellow was caution. Caution doesn't mean you can never have it. It doesn't mean you can never have the ice cream or the yams or the honey or the pineapple or the corn chips, even the hamburger. But it's got to be with moderation. But we think about the culture that we live in. Think about your own family. Think about our children. Are they doing this on a regular basis, or they're just doing it every now and then?
The glycemic index is a system of values given to foods according to how quickly they cause an increase in blood glucose levels. To put that in layman's terms, it basically measures how fast different foods are digested by the body. You see, glucose is a simple sugar that gives your body energy, and you get it from the foods you eat. Your blood is what carries this sugar throughout your body to all your hungry cells and tissues. That's why it's called blood glucose. If you eat something that's high on the index, your blood glucose will spike, giving you a fast boost of energy. Yeah, sign me up. Whoa, wait a second. It's not as cool as it sounds because this energy boost is short-lived and almost always followed by a crash. Like Isaac Newton said, what goes up must come down. That energy rush you get is a result of the food being digested quickly. Once that process is done, your fuel tank gets empty real fast. That means you'll be feeling hungry again sooner than you know it and heading right back to the fridge. In a nutshell, if you're eating lots of these fast-digesting foods, you may find that you're eating way more than you should. Now, I'm not saying that the kitchen isn't my favorite place in the house, because it certainly is. But of course, we all know the main problem when it comes to spending too much time there. Getting into that vicious cycle of overeating high glycemic foods almost always leads to weight gain. Plus, since these foods have so much glucose in them, your body takes what it needs and then stores the rest as fat. Well, not unless you're one of those lucky people that eat what you want and don't gain an ounce. Anyway, as for the rest of us, added weight comes with health risks like cardiovascular disease, kidney failure, and diabetes. So it's better to avoid these foods or consume them in moderation.
That's what we got to start doing, right? Either avoid them or consume them in moderation. Moderation is the key, because one of the key things he said was it only uses the glucose that it needs, and then it stores the rest as your favorite thing, fat, right? And that's why we're sitting there with all this fat, belly fat sitting around our waist, because we're not taking care of realizing the glycemic index on the foods that we're eating. Now let's look at the high ones. And if you're watching this and you're seeing something on here that you do on a regular basis, I'm asking you to stop. The white bread, the croissants, yes, the beer, the bagels, the instant mashed potatoes, the boiled potato, the baked potato. And the baked potato would be all right if we didn't put all the rest of the stuff on there, right? The rice milk, the instant oatmeal, the white rice, the French fries, the waffles, the rice flour, the unleavened wheat bread, instant rice, whole wheat bread, syrup. The list goes on and on. Again, this is only a comprehensive list that I put together based on a lot of foods that I like, and you probably like too.
There are also foods that don't really have a glycemic index value since they don't contain any carbs, but they can still take a while to be digested by your stomach. It can take you anywhere from 2 to 5 hours for your stomach to digest meats like chicken, lamb, and pork. Seafood and fish, such as salmon, trout, and tuna, usually leave the stomach after about 40 minutes to an hour.
Wow. Salmon, fish, much shorter period of time. Matter of fact, let's talk about meat for a minute here, because we love our meat. We've been raised on our meat. But why is meat so hard to digest? It has 0 glycemic index. It's 0 on the list. It's not listed in the low, the medium, or the high. And when you're talking about pick which one. Okay, matter of fact, put in the chat. Which one of these is your favorite? Come on. Fess up. Lamb chops, sirloins, prime ribs, leg of lamb. Don't tell me all of the above. I saw somebody saying that, thinking that already. Meatloaf, sausages, roast chicken, pepperoni, turkey. Turkey's not on here, but it's a meat. Because we tend to think that we can have one over the other, and so many of them is because it's processed is the reason why it's not listed into the 0 or the whole chart. But why? I asked that question. That's the question I ask when I'm doing my research. I want to know the whys behind everything. Why is meat harder to digest? Well, because it has a complex structure. It contains dense muscle fibers, connective tissues, and proteins that are harder to break down compared to plant-based foods, compared to everything we looked at in the low, medium, and high, the green, yellow, and the red light. This is harder to digest because it's an animal. The fat content of that animal, it slows digestion because fat takes longer to emulsify. What does emulsify? Break the fat into tiny droplets. I mean, when you go to the stool, you're not releasing big things, you're releasing droplets, but it's got to break down internally in your digestive tract. Therefore, because it's harder to do that, it delays your stomach emptying out. Therefore, what happens? We've got waste that builds up on the walls of our intestines. The enzyme requirements. See, the body requires more enzymes and stomach acid to digest. And when you don't have that stomach acid, which there we go back to blood types, certain blood types have more stomach acid than other blood types. And because of that, guess what? The less stomach acid you have, the harder it is for that meat to digest, making the process slower and more energy intensive. And then how we cook it matters. Yeah, frying makes meat tougher and harder to digest. Overcooking denatures the meat. It changes the structure of the meat. It changes the structure of the proteins, and therefore it's harder to break it down. So let's think about this. Our normal body temperature is 98.6, normal body temperature. Now, if you digest any animal, and I mean anything that has eyes and walks on 2, 3, 4 legs, any animal that has a body temperature higher than that 98.6, higher than yours, then now when you eat it, your body has to work harder to break down that protein. I just told you that's a reason why. But now I need you to understand it based on various meats. You're going to be surprised by this. The cow. The normal body temperature of the cow is 101.5. Is that higher than 98.6? Absolutely. So now we understand when we eat anything from the cow, our body works harder. The pig. Oh, we love the pig. We love some pork chops. Some folks still love some chitlins, love some hog maw. Come on, I'm just saying. But the pig, 102.6. Can you understand what's happening to a race of people, the African American people, those of us who eat all of these? But then everybody loves turkey. We do it at least once a year for Thanksgiving. And after we sit and eat that turkey dinner, everybody is on the couch, on the floor, in the bedroom, sleep. Turkey, look at that, body temperature. 105 to 107. I know you thought that the cow was going to be higher than the turkey, but no, the normal body temperature of the turkey is 105 to 107. Look how hard we got to digest it. So now everybody's consuming, expending energy after turkey dinner. And everybody's snoring. Chicken. See there? 105 to 107 as well. Whether you eat it fried, dyed, or laid to the side, your body's working. And over time, it gets tired of working. Over time, the peristalsis that's need to move the food down gets tired. And now all that stuff starts backing up. But look at the fish. Fish, salmon, all of that, normal body temperature. And that temperature is based on the water that it's in as well, but it's still lower than our normal human body temperature, meaning it doesn't work as hard to break down the proteins in the oils of your fish and your trout and your salmon. Now, although this lion was really close to the gazelle, it could not catch him. Why is that? Because the lion is a carnivore, eats flesh, eats meat. The gazelle is an herbivore, eats plants. What does that say about us? We're not actually designed to be carnivores, but yet we eat like a carnivore. We're eating meat. But the gazelle, we need to be like the gazelle so we can move fast and get around.
There are really no other animal species in the world that have obesity and chronic disease epidemics. And they don't have social media, they don't have experts, they don't have PubMed, they don't have the FDA, they don't have the USDA, they don't have any of it. And they have somehow figured out a way to stay at a healthy weight and to not get heart disease. And it's because they're eating real food that meets the needs of their cells. The root cause of the problem is that we have a toxic food supply that's no longer filled with the molecular information that our body needs to know to be satiated and to function properly. And so through the complex biology of satiety hormones and neurobiology and microbiome function, we are driven to eat so much more. So truly, the jumping off point for anyone on the quest to better health is to eat as much real, unprocessed food from good soil as possible.
Corn is everywhere, in our fields, in our fall decorations, and in our I have a theory as to why we don't digest corn. At least I did have a theory up until I made this video and found out what the truth really was. My theory went something like this. Corn is literally in everything. I'm willing to bet the last thing that you ate had corn listed on the ingredients. High fructose corn syrup, cornstarch, dextrose. No, you're wrong. The last thing I ate was beef. I hate to break it to you, but that beef you ate was corn-taminated. Ew, don't ever say that again, Chuck. Yeah, that was stupid, sorry. 97% of American beef is corn-fed. Even the beef you buy that says grass-fed is actually corn-fed. They're fed grass most of their life, but switched over to corn feed the last few weeks to fatten them up before being slaughtered. Oh, slaughtered, that's a harsh word. Killed? That's even worse, dude. Okay, butchered? I guess any way you say it, it's just gonna sound bad, so just move on. So my theory went like this. Because corn is literally in everything that we eat, our bodies are already so enriched in it. When we eat corn, our body says, hey dude, I think I have enough of this already. Keep moving. In theory, this theory sounds promising, but it's far from accurate. Corn kernels have an outer shell or layer containing a compound known as cellulose. Cellulose is an insoluble fiber, which basically means our body is not naturally capable of breaking it down. This is why it passes through our system and is more easily visible in our shit. So since our bodies aren't breaking these fibers down naturally and we're seeing them in our stool, does this mean that we shouldn't be eating corn? No. Cellulose only makes up about 10% of corn. The other 90% is useful nutrition. Which leads me to my next point. corn has a bit of a misconception. People tend to think that corn has no nutritional value because it's labeled as a starch. Of course, there are other vegetables out there that offer more nutrition, but eating corn instead of a bag of chips is a much better health option. What's most important is to eat a balanced diet. Vegetables, fruits, grains, and healthy proteins. Corn is a good source of dietary fiber, and it contains an antioxidant known as carotenoids. Carotenoids are what give vegetables such as corn and carrots their color. Some studies say that they even have cancer-fighting properties. However, corn has far less carotenoids than leafy greens do. So is corn going right through our digestive system because we already are so enriched in it? No. Is corn actually even going right through us? No, we digest everything except the insoluble fibers. But it does make me wonder if we should be eating corn at all because it's literally in everything that we're already eating.
Something to think about. I think I've seen the whole kernels in the toilet. So when we talk about this glycemic index, when we talk about digesting what we're eating, I hope you're getting this. There are things that we should all be doing. Supplements that help digestion. In addition to eating a healthy diet, there are some supplements that can help keep your digestive system on track. Probiotics, collagen, bone broth protein, digestive enzymes, organic supergreens, apple cider vinegar, and ancient granulars. But here's the bottom line. We've got to help ourselves. Start here. If you can't do anything else, start avoiding processed foods. Look at the screen. Come on now. I mean, we talked about Navigation Alley, that little alley right on the way to the checkout counter where you see a lot of this stuff. We talk about the end caps in the grocery store. This is where you see a lot of this stuff. So now, to the point where now when I'm walking in the store, I'm avoiding those areas. So avoid processed foods. Get plenty of fiber. Let's make a mission. Let's make a plan to get plenty of fiber in our diet. That's why our company, Akana, is doing the necessary things, putting together the necessary formulations to make sure that on a regular basis, we get the fiber that we need. Add the probiotics. Add the enzymes to your diet. They're easy to get. You can even put these things on subscription, but now we're starting to be able to get them with our flat belly fuel that we have here at Akana. And if you don't know what that is, make sure you get back with the person that invited you to watch this and to be a part of this to get that information. And then last, but definitely not least, water, water, water. Hydration matters, guys. We've got to drink more water. I tell people, pray and ask God to help it taste good to you. People put lemon in water. You know, whatever you need to do to start digesting more water. Why? Because hydration matters. They say you are what you eat. Yeah, that's partly true, but you are what you digest and what you absorb. Because you've got to realize every 35 days, our skin replaces itself and our body makes new cells. That's the way God made this body. But what you eat literally becomes who you are. And now we've got to make sure that we're digesting what we eat. So make sure that you make the necessary changes to see better health in your life, because now you're concerned about how you digest.